Hello, I'm Mark,
Casey.
And I'm Patrick.
and today we're going to talk a little bit about superchargers and what's coming just down the road. But first, let's roll that title.
Yes, we are going to roll that title.
You're watching the Tesla Life Express!
Hey everyone, thanks very much for joining us today. Going to talk a little bit about superchargers and some innovations that are coming our way in North America. Tesla recently announced that V4, real V4 superchargers, are on their way. They're going to be rolling them out. They say sometime in 2025. They didn't give any indication as to where in North America they would be rolled out. But I don't think that the Tesla drone and fanboy people out there are going to have any problem determining where these are going in. I would bet good money that people will be able to pick up on this pretty quickly. But we are lucky enough to have with us Mr. Supercharger, of course, Mr. Casey Green joining us. And he's going to tell us a little bit about some of the details of the V4 Superchargers and what they entail. Casey.
Yes, this is super exciting. So Tesla released a teaser video and a short X article. And then from there, it was super exciting. They didn't just do that, though. They let us add a couple of the executives. They gave us some data. And then this is what we've been waiting for. We got excited when the V4 posts came out, but the dispensers. But it's like it's a pretty front end to something we already had. The V3 250 watt kilowatt charging.
Yeah, we got all excited and sent Patrick to Wilsonville to check one out for us.
And me to Columbia. And then they, not to say that the dispensers aren't nice. They are really nice, especially in Europe, where they allow the Charge My On Tesla program to be just basically universal. It's not universal, but in some countries, as we discussed it last week or so, it is. But you get the liquid immersed handle and cable. It's a lot easier to spot, and to get the longer cable was the most important part. And the screen on the system where that is required, it was nice to have that. But that wasn't what we were looking for when they announced to us, hey, V4 is ready and the Cybertruck can use it. And it's really the Tesla Mega Charger that's going to charge the Tesla Semi. Did they do this at the Semi event or a different one? It was years ago, either way. And now it's finally come. You couple that new dispenser on the V3 Pluses with the actual V4 Supercharger cabinet, and it is phenomenal. In fact, let's do a little video on it on X. Look at that. It's actually shorter than the old system because it's shorter than the dispensers.
Yeah.
Look right here. I'm going to pause it. 500 kilowatts on the Cybertruck. When they came out and they said, "Oh, it's going to be 350," I'm like, that is not what you promised. It wasn't. Here, they actually did better than promised. So 500 kilowatts on Cybertruck. We're looking at over 1,300 miles an hour of supercharging.
I like that way to rate charging speed because it makes a lot more sense than nobody has a intuitive feel for what a kilowatt is as a rate of power, and then you have to know how big the battery pack is and other things. But I think this is a much more people understand miles per hour or kilometers per hour, and
it's custom to your car, so you already know
exactly. Yes, and it fits with, and that way it scales with your battery pack. It scales with your efficiency. It's the right metric to put out.
Definitely. So you're saying, why is the Semi there? Because of what I just said earlier. This thing is derived from the Semi, but that's not all. My suspicion here is that this is, as we were led to believe before, that the V3 cabinets would get one per supercharger to give it megawatt charging. Look at this number. the Tesla Semi gets 1.2 megawatts of charging. So if just under a megawatt was enough for it to, let's just leave this running. If just under a megawatt was enough for it to charge the semi truck in enough time that the truck was always waiting on the driver, and they weren't wasting any of their legal minutes of driving or doing paperwork or whatever. Imagine what you can do with an extra 200 kilowatts. That's just dumping an extra V3 charger. Yeah, here you go. Just a little bit faster for you. And now we also know why they were so hesitant to tell us what plug would go on this thing. They were using MCS2, and we're like, if they're going for megawatt and NACS can do megawatt, why not just have one plug for the entire thing and make the Semi use the same high voltage NACS connector that the Cybertruck can take? And now we know why, because to go past.
So Casey, you're saying, just for clarification here,
yes,
that the new V4 will charge the Cybertruck.
Yes.
It'll also, the same unit will charge the Semi as well.
Yes, with the right handle. So you'll what you're going to have here is, if it can charge your passenger car, there'll be 8 of them per install, not 4, not 2 like we used to have, 8. And if it's a semi truck, you'll have 1. It'll go straight into the truck, and that, I think that's the real difference there, and the handles. So this they've got improvements in the software, improvements in the vehicles themselves. So that's why the Cybertruck is the first one that can do this, not just the 800 volt architecture. This will charge 1,000 volts. It will charge other people's cars and get them out of your way quicker if they are 1,000 volt cars. They've got improvements internal to the system, and as we were just talking about recently about the palletized V3s and V3 pluses. This comes in 8 at a time, so it actually removes the DC bus that we were talking about on the V3 and V3 pluses. These no longer share power across the parking lot, just because what they found was that was something that was holding them up at the larger installs, was getting that power to share between cabinets. So this one can just do it, and it is so powerful that even though there's 8 cars attached to it, or up to 8 cars attached to it, 99% of the time, it can just put out max power for all the cars that will attach to it at all times. So the same example I gave on the DC bus on the other episode, you have a car club come up together. They're going from one city to another, or they're all going to watch the fall leaves, or Kyle's crew is all doing a cannonball run. They might see limitations on this, because they'll have 8 cars that are exactly 0 all arrive together, all plug in at the same time, and then you just can't do it. But
right, which is very unusual, and not a case you would want to optimize for.
Exactly, because it just costs too much money, and it just doesn't happen like that in the real world. Because then we're looking at 500 kilowatts per stall times 8. What is that? It's well higher than 1.2.
What's that? 4 gigawatt?
4 megawatts. Yeah.
4 megawatt. Yes.
Yeah. So,
and there's just no way that each vehicle is going to be drawing the full 500. That's going to be a small portion. Once you start getting too hot, it's going to slow down. Once you start getting above 60%, it's going to slow down. So that's why you can support 8 of them, because most of the time they'll be drawing 100. And the charge peak, you're not at the max for very long.
Exactly. So Cybertruck, you got 8 Cybertrucks coming in a Cybertruck club. They will slow it down, but and even then they might not. It might be able to overdrive, just like all the other in the past. The Tesla systems can overdrive for a moment, and it might be able to overdrive long enough that even that is not a 99% event. They can overdrive it, and then the trucks will have to slow down, and then it's like, I got you.
And that's a good point to mention too. Is that really this extreme charging at 1,300 miles per hour? It's only going to apply to the Cybertruck. None of the rest of the fleet, certainly not the 3s and Ys, are going to be able to take advantage of this faster charging. Correct?
Right. So
well, but one point, you can already get to 1,000 miles per hour in the latest 3 and Y. because, like Casey said, it scales with the efficiency of your vehicle, and
but you're not going to be hitting 1300 like the video shows here.
Right. Not only the Cybertruck for now.
Yeah, the Cybertruck, and I'm suspecting that maybe not like Juniper, but like maybe whatever's after that. But maybe don't bet on this. Juniper could. There's nothing saying that they didn't optimize it, and it could also explain why they're not doing it this year. They're anytime this year.
Call me back when you get to 1.21 gigawatts.
We're there. We're already there. All we need to do is get an additional 1.21. So we're at 1.2. So we need another 100 watts, right?
Yep, not much. Not much. 1,000 watts. Well, that's very cool that that these chargers again, 2025 is when they're going to start to install them and push them out to the real world. But it is going to be interesting to see also as those as the first semi charger goes into place somewhere as well. They're going to be using these type of units as there with again a different handle, but it's going to be exciting to start to see these roll out, and people with Cybertrucks and people that are towing with Cybertrucks definitely going to see a benefit to this for faster speeds for stopping in, charging, and moving on to the next site.
Yeah, so we've got some numbers to talk about with this thing now. Let's see what Tesla gave us. So they remind us that supercharging used to just be 90 kilowatts before when it came out in the US. They had a stack of 10 of the Model S chargers, so they would run at 10 kilowatts. So you could get up to 20 kilowatts if you had the dual chargers in your car at home. And so that same power conditioning, all that circuitry, they just stacked it up and fed it the full raw voltage from the grid. And that gave us 90 kilowatts. And then in Europe, you guys don't run 60 hertz. Well, not just the 60 hertz, but the way that you guys run your power. You got the 3-phase readily available, all that stuff. And they realized they could get it up to 100 kilowatts and 120 kilowatts. And so that's when the supercharger started to diverge a little bit from what was happening in the cars. And then they gave us a software update for most of the V2s to get us up to 150 kilowatts. And then later on, for some reason, the urban supercharger came out at 72 kilowatts, probably to use up some of those V1s that were getting removed, the V1s and some of the early V2s that couldn't do the full 150. And so they would have a fixed split of 72 kilowatts per stall. So at that point, we're still at 2 stalls per cabinet or dispensers. And then we got V3, which gave us 4 stalls or dispensers per cabinet. And then the DC bus sharing, that was new to V3 and also stopped with V3 Plus. And then now with 8 of these dudes. So in 2023, they launched the V4 posts. They call it post now. Inconsistent terminology. Post dispenser. But they still have the V3 cabinets behind them. So now 500 kilowatts for cars. So they confirmed now. I think they had different verbiage, and that's why I couched it the way I did. 500 kilowatts for cars and 1.2 megawatts for. Oh, you're right, gigawatts, not gigawatts. 1.21 megawatts.
3 orders of magnitude off, but we're close.
But 1.2 megawatts for semi with the right handle. So now they will handle the existing 400 volt cars. So if you have an early APAC Model S that can only do 90 kilowatts, it will step down and handle you. If you have a Bolt, it'll step all the way down and handle you at 50 or 25 kilowatts, depending on which one you get. And if you have a Porsche or an Audi or a Cybertruck or the Hyundai with 1,000 volt architecture or the Lucid, it will feed 1,000 volts out to that. And assuming that you're at a site where Tesla's sharing, if it's one of the ones that Mark visited in California, there ain't any sharing there because it's bad enough as it is. But it will charge them at their maximum capability. And if you do have an older car and it's made by Tesla, you do get some of that overdrive capability. They built the thing. They know what you can handle. My car is officially only rated at 150 kilowatts, but it can take 180 for a moment. The new SNX. I just forgot the Palladium, but I forgot the actual it was on my account, the code name for them, but they can do 250 for quite a while, a couple minutes. But then they start to slow down because you got to worry about heating up the charge port, heating up the cabling conductors inside the car, and then cooling the whole thing down. They might be able to actually get above 250 because what's holding them at 250 right now is the V3 Supercharger. So we might see 280, 290, 300 on them for a moment, and then it'll go back down. If you have one of the older cars where, let's say the entry level cars first, like the newer Model 3s and such, they have another limit for a few reasons. One, there's less cells in their pack, so that slows them down, and then two, they just didn't put the beefy connection on the connectors for some of them, so that will limit you. But you can still see a little bit faster. So I suspect mine probably still say the 180. I think that was just what it can do. So that's just because you have an older car doesn't mean you won't see it. Just like when we saw with the V3s for the cars that couldn't do 250, they were more consistent than the cars on that could do 250 because they never overheated. They just went in and they just maxed out and they held it because the cables are liquid cooled on V3. So I suspect even on those cars that are not Cybertrucks and not 1,000-volt architecture with enough amps, because that's another part. If you can't push that through the pipe, it's not going to matter anyway. But even on those cars, I think you'll see a more consistent experience because now everything is liquid cooled in there, which is pretty darn cool. So we had 250 kilowatts charge rate is already a V3 experience. Faster deployments. This one's important right here. 8 posts, so you get 2 times the stalls per cabinet. The cabinet is really what was slowing them down if they weren't doing like the big dig trenches and everything, because you got to get all your utility stuff in there, and then you got to wire it up. And if they palletize these, like if they just come on 2 racks, or somehow they can fit them all together on the semi-truck without over length, then they can still do the crane install for most of the sites that aren't custom. Next generation hardware, you get cutting edge power electronics are designed to be the most reliable on the planet, with 3 times the power density, enabling higher throughput with lower costs. Which is why now they don't need to do the DC bus power sharing between cabinets, and they can handle 8 cars showing up and going full on. And so they, as Mark said, 2025. They didn't want to tell us more, but the Cloud Squad has already started. They found what they think is the place where this picture was taken. Just from the stuff in the background. They're like, we're pretty sure this is it, but there's an extra radar dome in the background. I was like, wow, that's phenomenal. They are.
Yeah, it doesn't take much, man, to spur the community to find a site. That's for sure. That is for sure.
Yes.
Well,
and here they are in the thread doing it.
They're doing it live right on the Twitter feed. Oh, that looks like XYZ site. Absolutely. Yes. I'm going there now. I'll just check it out and take some more photos. So
Max is in charge of Superchargers, been building Superchargers since 2014. Posts can pick up to 500 kilowatts for cars, but we need less than 1 megawatt across 8 posts to deliver maximum power to cars 99% of the time. So it can get the full megawatt per cabinet. And then, as we saw, a little more for semi. But we were discussing why it almost never needs to get that high, because it's just the way that people arrive at these things. No more DC bus bar between cabinets. Power comes from a single V4 cabinet to 8 stalls. It's easier to install, it's cheaper, and it's more reliable. I didn't even think about the reliable part. I was just thinking about how hard it is to get everything wired and put together. But that's a mechanical connection that you're making right there, mechanical electrical. And then you've got switches and stuff going on inside, contactors and whatnot. So there's less stuff to break. As Elon likes to say, the best part is no part.
All right, this is pretty cool, and I think Casey could talk about Superchargers forever, which is why we call him MrSupercharger.com.
I'm just trying to get some more of the highlights
before we have to wrap it up, Casey. Otherwise, this is going to be a full show. So
a full show. So efficiencies, and everybody likes.
He just won't stop, Mark.
You won't. We're going to have to cut him off at the knees. It's obvious.
Okay, so we'll talk a little bit more on Sunday.
Exactly. We can talk some more in the show. And Casey, what is the show on Sunday?
You can catch us at youtube.com/Casey Green, and we will catch you there. It's going to be a blast. We'll probably send Patrick out to go supercharge at the first one because it's going to be in his area. We know it.
I hope so.
And Patrick, any shout outs from you at the end of the show?
Yeah, so I've been just glad that Tesla's going to use a different connector for the Semi, because I would hate to come in and see one truck blocking 8 stalls.
All the stalls.
You can find my writings at carswithcords.net, and I'm with the Oregon Electric Vehicle Association. You can find us at oeva.org. Thank you.
Very good. Well, thanks everyone for joining us. Please give us that thumbs up, press that subscribe, and we will catch you next time and find out what's happening in the Tesla life.
So next time is going to be Monday for the Tesla Life Express Edition 2. Catch you there.